Okay, Peter, thank you very much. It's your turn.
All good. Well, thank you for the welcoming to this Lunch and Learn session. Thank you. My name is Peter Taylor. I'm known as the Lazy Project Manager, and I've had the pleasure of speaking at the conference in Budapest three times, I believe. So hopefully some of you will know me, but if you don't, you can find out all about me at thelazyprojectmanager.com. These days, I have built and led some of the largest PMOs in the world. I've been in project management for a very long time. I'm a speaker, I'm an author, and I want to share with you my thoughts, and these are my personal thoughts around artificial intelligence and project management, obviously, which is my passion. So, um, the speaking and the writing and my original thoughts all began back in 2008, actually, but 2009 was when the original Lazy Project Manager was published. And the essence behind that, if you've not come across it yet, is it's about personal productivity. It's about working smarter and not harder. It's about efficiency in a productive way. So, I came up with the term of productive laziness. That was what it's all about. And in that book, there are dinosaurs and there are superheroes and things like that. But the essence is it's about doing more with less. And I think it's important that I do start there, even in this modern world and many years later, because the essence, the essence is just the same. It is about efficiency and effectiveness in the AI world. So this book came out, and that was the foundations of my speaking and my teaching. Back in 2021, well, 2020, I started writing this. It struck me at the time that there seemed to be very little conversation going on in the project management world. I'm very fortunate. Have been invited to speak at conferences around the world, over 500 times in 28 different countries. And by attending lots of conferences and events and business speaking as well, it struck me that at this point in time, around 2020, that there was very little conversation going on about what I felt was going to be really, really impactful on our world. And that was artificial intelligence, AI. So I wrote a book which was titled AI in the Project Manager: How the Rise of Artificial Intelligence Will Change Your World. Now, again, one of the times I was able to speak about this was in 2023 at your conference, and I talked about the good, the bad, and the ugly of artificial intelligence and project management. And in fact, things had changed already by then, because in 2020-21, it didn't appear that anybody was talking about this particularly, but 2023, there was a common theme throughout all of the presentations of that day, which was linked in some way to artificial intelligence. Um, and at that point, I had a very clear idea what I felt artificial intelligence would do in our world. And I talked then about, at the end of the day, is about people. Therefore, AI will not take over everything. AI can't take over everything. It can't do everything in our complex, our complicated world. Um, it's about people. It's about driving people to achieve things and work with other people. And that was my very strong view at that point in time. There was around the time that the famous quote came out, which talked about that by 2030, AI would do 80% what project managers will do today, but that 80% was going to be around the mechanics, if you like, of project management. But let's move on now to 2026, 2025 when I started writing the book, 2026 when it was published. And I moved on. I changed because I now believed, and this is why I came up with the Invisible Project Manager. I believe that artificial intelligence will run projects without you. That's my bold declarative statement, and I'm sure we're going to have a good debate about this, and you're going to agree or disagree, etc. I will explain what I mean by that because there are some caveats there. So clearly, it's not a black and white situation, but the point is that I do think that it will fundamentally change our world of project management. And we'll talk about whether that's good or bad or whatever. But that's what I want to talk about today. So, yeah, in my book and in my presentations, I ask the question of everybody. I mean, are you ready to disappear? Are you ready to disappear as the project manager that you are today? Or are you resisting this? Have you got your head in the sand? Are you hiding it? Are you trying to ignore it? Are you trying to um, hope it goes away? Well, it's not going to, and I'm sure most people don't really think that anymore. Certainly, when I started doing the presentations back in 2021, 20, that kind of period, when I asked people about AI, it was very mixed. You know, half were excited and half thought it wouldn't have that much impact at all. The reality is, I think most people have moved completely towards it's going to have a huge impact. The question really is, okay, if it's going to have that impact, what is the consequences of that impact? Now, look, I do not have, I do not have a crystal ball. I cannot see into the future, but I feel the future is so near to us right now that we really can have a fairly clear idea about where things are going. And I'm not alone in this, all right? It's not just my personal thoughts. There are many people right now speaking about this, discussing this, debating about this. What is it going to do? It's interesting. So last night, in fact, I was on a Harvard Business Review call, a webinar that was hosted by Antonio Nieto Rodriguez, a very well-known person in the world of project management, close affiliations with PMI and now APM as well. Been talking and exploring this for a long time. And one of the points that Antonio made last night was the job you were trying to do no longer exists. I mean, he's very declarative in this that it's already changed. You know, if you're a project manager tracking milestones, it's gone. If you're operations leader optimizing the known, it's gone. PMO director, I know that as a PMO, head of a PMO up until recently. Fundamentally, it was changing what the PMO was all about. Middle manager, it's definitely changing as well. Excuse me. So it's the same time. His view is the same type job title, same business cards, different job. It will change though, and if you don't change that, that role that you have right now will disappear in 6 to 12 months. So there's a very very short time frame indeed, and something to really make people think. Um, there's a thing right now, and there's a couple of our royal family there. It's William and Kate in the middle there. I'm not actually sure what event this was at, to be honest. But the thing is, there's this very well-known thing called the Mexican Wave, and I've had the pleasure of leading Mexican Waves at conferences in the past when I've been talking about communication, and this is an example of silent communication because I mean you all know Mexican Wave. People can people can start the process and gradually it builds and builds until suddenly it's going all the way around a stadium, and it's very impressive when that happens. But right now, and I think this is another point I'm trying to make about things are going to change, whether we want them to or not, is this. I wrote about this very recently. It's what I refer to as the assumptive wave. You know, in my own organization, it's happened. In other organizations, it's happening as well. Is that the organization is looking internally and going, AI is coming, AI is here. You know, we're already using AI. So on that basis, we don't need as many people. And you're seeing the figures around the world. 10% is a very conservative figure of the number of people that organizations are letting go, putting back into the job market. Meta recently, 8,000 people, whatever it was. There was the bank as well that dropped 40% of their people because they believed that AI would allow them to fully automate or replace everything they were doing for that period of time. Now, there's something that goes on in the heads of organizations, the CEOs of the world, is that if they see anybody doing something, and this is the reality of how PMOs grew so quickly as well. When they see organizations doing something, they go, well, if they can do it, we should do it. And what's happening right now is I believe that CEOs are going, well, that company over there has just released 10% of their workforce and saved millions in costs. Why aren't we doing the same? And therefore, we're in this assumptive wave that's going across organizations right now. particularly in the tech industry. There's no doubt. I mean, that's my background. But we're losing a lot of people now. Actually, that it's an assumptive wave, I believe, because as yet they have not proven fully the ability of artificial intelligence to replace all those jobs, but they're still making the cuts anyway. But this is the situation that we're in. This is the position that we are in right now, is the fact these changes, on one hand, you've got no doubt the power that we're seeing it of AI and what it can do. We've all played with it, we've all experimented, and some are going deeper than others. We're seeing organizations looking to adapt and adopt artificial intelligence. PMI themselves are doing that. Then, on the other hand, we're seeing change being driven aggressively by organizations going, hey, we can save money. We don't need as many people. So it's fundamentally is going to change what we do. As I said, I don't have the crystal ball. I can't see everything. Um, but I've applied. I spent some time really talking to a lot of organizations, particularly in the world of product portfolio management technology. Talked to a lot of organizations about what their plans were, and many were quite secretive. I'll be honest, because they wanted to have that market advantage. Awful lot of niche players as well, starting to look up. I've been involved in two startup organizations exploring. One was like team sentiment, how people were feeling. Another one was, the kind of more of the PM assistant type thing. And from all those points and all those perspectives, what I can envisage is significant and rapid change at a level that we haven't seen beforehand. Now, when we talk about our world, when we talk about being project managers and program managers and portfolio managers and PMO managers, leaders, whatever, when we talk about all of this oversight of change, we typically talk about our world is different. Our world is different because it's on one hand, it's science, and on the other hand, it's art. Our world brings those two things together. So let's start with the science side of things to begin with. Um, on the science side, I think we can all see, I mean, critical path, earned value management, risk probability modeling, resource optimization, financial modeling. Um, all of these things are basically calculations. They're math. And if they're maths, if they can be taken and put into an algorithm, then it can just be done by artificial intelligence. It can be done probably better by artificial intelligence. It doesn't get tired. It doesn't stop. It doesn't have breaks, doesn't have holidays, doesn't go to sleep. Now, obviously, data is critical here. The data needs to be accurate, and we will acknowledge that our world is less than perfect, isn't it? Despite all of these years, most organizations I've worked with and most organizations I've worked for, data has always been something of a problem. But assuming that can be resolved to a point of suitability, if you like, of an appropriate level of accuracy, then the science part of what we do, I would argue, can be done by technology. It doesn't need us. And in fact, a lot of it is quite tedious and boring and stuff that when I was an acting project manager, that's the part I found less interesting. The other side, the art side. Well, this is far more about people, isn't it? This is far more about stakeholder management. This is about team performance, getting the best out of a group of people who probably have not worked together before, who could be all over the world. Certainly, in my recent role as the global head of a PMO, a lot of our projects involve people who had never met, never were going to be in a single room ever, multi-language, multicultural, multi-time zones, all of that. So there was a lot of work there to engage and lead that team to a point of success, of high performance. The typical, the forming, storming, norming, performing approach. Then that had to be accelerated, and we did that. We did accelerate it through a lot of great leadership from our project managers. Leadership itself, leadership of the actual change, working with a disparate group of people, My most recent work was, client-facing projects. It was running hundreds of projects across the world for clients who bought the technology that my company that offered, and therefore they needed a project team to help them deploy, implement the technology, and gain the advantage that they were invested in as quickly as possible, of course. So leadership was another critical one there, because you're leading people inside your own organization, you're leading people outside your organization as one. And emotional intelligence, that's another thing. So here perhaps there's an argument that says, well, hang on, this is the bit that AI can't do. Okay, let's accept it. Science, all right, it could do that. Give it the guidelines, give it the maths, give it the calculation, create the algorithms, let it run, give it the data, maintain the data, and off it goes. The science part, more of a question, I would say. But I saw a really, really good presentation just over a couple of years ago by Daniel Susskind, as a research professor at economics at King's College London. Fascinating. He's written a couple of really, really interesting books around changing the workforce and the impact of artificial intelligence on the new workforce, and the changes that, he replies to historical examples and brings them up to date and applies the new model and moves forward. But his point, which made me stop and think, because I was of the view that science, yeah, technology can do it, art, technology couldn't do it. But his view is that actually, if you think about this, and if you're truly honest, you can break any job down into little tasks, to cubes of activity, if you like, hence the visual representation here. Even what's the most creative person you can think of? Perhaps an artist. There are still things that an artist has to do that are repeatable and non-creative, in the sense of preparation, stretching a canvas, or that kind of thing, securing paints and making sure your stock levels don't fall. There are still parts of any job that can be broken down. Go, you know what? That is actually, whilst it's under this umbrella of creativity, it's actually a repeatable process. And the more of those repeatable processes exist in a job, then the more likely is that more of that job can actually be automated. So even the creative part, I believe, of the work that we do can actually be drawn into the AI world. Now, when you look at the shift from 2021 to 2026, there were three things that triggered my change of view, or evolution of view, if you like, about why this would be different. So the first thing is that the sheer brute force of what the technology can do now. So it's way back in 1997. Garry Kasparov, the chess player, the grandmaster, was beaten by Deep Blue from IBM. And the thing that made it possible was the fact that it wasn't the fact that, I mean, there was some great interviews with Garry Kasparov that talked about the fact that he didn't know how he was so great. He had a skill, he had memory capabilities and the ability to process and think, through the various chess moves. He had a history of thousands of his own games and other people's games. But at the end of the day, what made him better than anybody else was just something he couldn't describe, actually. And if you can't describe it, then it can't be copied. It can't be automated in the traditional sense. But how IBM did it in the end was sheer brute force. It threw processing power beyond anything a human can do to eventually beat Kasparov. Eventually, he didn't beat Kasparov straight away. It was the second time that happened. If you move on to where we are now with the type of processing capability, it's light years from 1997. It's just unbelievable what can actually be done. The quantum computing that is, just over the horizon right now is mind-melting of what it can actually do. So that's the first thing, sheer brute force. A shift in expectations is another thing. With neuro-linguistic programming, predictive analytics, generative AI, we can adopt a lot of this, and that itself will empower and drive the change that I think is coming. And finally, I think we've also changed in our own work culture. We have learned to work with technology. We have learnt to have technology as a partner. Things we do all the time. You work with lots of organizations, whether, in your own personal world, where it be, things like Amazon or PayPal, etc. In the behind the scenes, there's AI that is running all the time. One quote there. I mean, this is Elon Musk. Love him or hate him, he's very a diverse type of character, but he can't be ignored, I don't think. And he talked about the pace of progress in AI is incredibly fast. And if you don't have direct exposure to what's going on, in his case, he's talking about DeepMind, you have no idea how fast it's growing. It's exponential. So any limitations, any barriers right now will rapidly be overcome. And another thing I think is to remember is the only important thing is the project. It isn't you. It isn't you. It isn't your project team. It's the project. And that's where the focus needs to be. Once again, I don't have a crystal ball, but I want to share with you some thoughts. I asked myself some questions when I finished all the research that I did for the book. I started asking myself some questions. And the first one was like, what if project managers disappeared entirely? Not in theory, but actually in practice. What would the world look like? And I reflected on a personal experience because one company I worked for, we had a team of people, and they weren't project managers by any means, but they were given a scripted workflow and they were given guidance and training, and they ran very, very small projects of one single module of our technology in that company that was highly repeatable. You might argue it's on the edge of, was it really a project? Well, there was always some slight differences. But the point about it was, with this lack of need of or lack of experience, etc., as long as we had one experienced person supporting, let's say 10 of these people, it was only a matter of when something deviated from the anticipated workflow, did they have to escalate and someone else would step in, someone with, if you like, real project management experience. So that's a human approach, but I think a similar sort of thing is possible in technology, in using the AI. What if the best project manager is the one you never knew was even there? I was always proud to be a project manager, and I like to turn up at meetings and I like to be recognized for what I've done. But what if that wasn't the fact? Wasn't it? What if it wasn't about me? What if it really was about the project? And what if the answer to project success? We talk about project success and failure all the time. Some people say it's never got better. Some people say it's getting worse. I counter that. I mean, in reality, in the commercial world I come from, if we didn't have project success, we wouldn't exist as a company, or the companies wouldn't exist. So there was a lot of success, but it was variable. So what if the answer to project success lies not with the human in the loop at all? What if it lies with the technology? Wow. And here I think there are kind of three phases of transformation. So this is my look at the short-term future. I think we already see that in many companies, AI is there as an assistant, and that assistant can be literally, using Teams to produce output from meetings and summarize and actions and all of that. For example, my own company, recent company, we used AI a lot for auto translations. Been working with teams around the world. It was very helpful in clarifying and not having problems. So I think the AI as assistant is really here. I don't think anybody would really argue against that. But I think there is the next stage, which is AI as a true collaborator. And I'm suggesting that will happen by 2030 at the latest. Not far off, and it might well happen earlier, actually. I mean, every day I think, was I too conservative with these dates, actually? But I think if you look at the broader landscape, not every company is going to move at the same speed. So as an average basis, I would say most companies will use AI as a collaborator by 2030. And I believe by 2035, we'll enter the world of the invisible project manager, where it is fully automated. And that fully automated world will be interesting because we get to ask lots of questions then. Can anyone do project management in an AI-empowered world? Will AI project world, will certifications and qualifications be as relevant or irrelevant? Will methodology no longer be a thing? It'll be put into history, because if AI can enable project managers in a significant way, why do you need any form of methodology? If it's already learnt it once, that's enough, and it can evolve it itself. Will project management bodies of knowledge exist in an AI cloud of data driven intelligence rather than the current sort of disparate siloed manner? Will it just be a body of knowledge that all AI will access? And in the AI project world, would the skill set of the project manager be devalued? These are big questions that I've talked about and I discuss further in the book itself. But another way of looking at it, because it's like, I don't be negative on this, I want to rough up the kind of positivity here, is I wrote a piece where I described project management as a bit like a rock band. And I actually likened it to my what I think is one of the great singles of all time. And that is Radar Love by Golden Earring. Everybody has different tastes in music. I accept that. At the time, I said, well, then, if you think about it, perhaps the project manager is a drummer. It's all about that steady beat. Well, maybe it's the bass player. It's that foundation. The bass player is the one that holds it all together. Or maybe it's the lead guitarist offering that kind of inspiration through solos, or maybe it's the vocalist, which is about leadership, etc. And I revisited this in what I think is possibly going to be the future state world, because I want to offer some positivity here that things will change, but we can get on board this change. I think there could well be, well, I know that there will be a role, which is I call project orchestrator. AI empowering project management will allow for any project manager to run more projects. There's no doubt about that. And there is no way your company is going to go, hey, we've got AI now, so you don't have to work as much and we're going to pay you just as much to do 3 days a week. That isn't going to happen. They're going to say, fantastic, AI is helping you now, so actually I need you to do 4 projects, not 2. That's the reality. And so the orchestrator is about guiding AI towards that kind of strategic stage, driving, holding the baton, perhaps if you're thinking about keeping the music theme going, play what matches the business tune. It's about making sure all of these projects being run by AI are driving towards what the business needs. Maybe there's an experience designer where it makes people feel part of the show. We can't have people who see themselves as spectators to this machine-driven performance. So I think an experience design that allows people to interact with the AI is critical. Outcomes, I talk a lot about outcomes when I talk about PMOs. We live in an outcome-centric world right now, and this is the impresario role, which steers towards value, ensuring things are successful. Maybe there's a collaboration coach in there. Maybe there's there will be a digital and ethics and governance officer. If someone has to get AI honest, no musical plagiarism, as I say there, but it's about ensuring that everything that goes on is not black box. It is actually checkable, provable, it's fair, it's transparent, and complies to all legal and moral expectations. This is huge at the moment. I was quite amazed to see that the Pope actually came out very recently about the ethics of AI. And the kind of a trust architect as well. These are just some roles I think that could well be put forward in this new world. So it's not about it is about roles disappearing, but it's a roles changing, evolving, and that's kind of where you need to be. But there is a challenge. I'm sure if any of you have children, then you may well have come across the Very Hungry Caterpillar at some point. I know at point I knew this book off by heart due to its repetitive reading at bedtime with my children. But it's about the caterpillar, and the caterpillar changes, metamorphoses into a beautiful butterfly at the end once it's had the right food, and that's the whole essence of the story. And I saw this quote by George Westerman from MIT, and it's very true. When digital transformation is done right, it's like a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. But when it's done wrong, all you have is a really fast caterpillar. There's a joke that we talk about garbage in, garbage out. Is an old joke around data quality in the world of automation. And actually, with AI, it's garbage in and garbage out faster if you don't get it right. It goes back to that data. But wow, the possibility here, I think, of AI in the world now, of what a supercharged butterfly, what it could possibly be, I think is very, very exciting. I think it's intriguing, it's exciting, it's a little bit scary, it's a little bit unknown, but it's something that's going to progress our profession massively, I think. But I don't have that crystal ball, as I keep saying. I think I'm trying to keep myself honest here in the fact that The reality is I'm not guessing, I'm anticipating the way it will go, and I'm anticipating it driven from a number of points. It's the points are driven by organizations' leadership saying, hey, we can make changes, let's make changes, we're doing it right now, we're cutting the workforce, we're reducing roles, we want people to do more, we want to empower them, we want the value from artificial intelligence, supported by the growth in the capability of artificial intelligence. And I know it's a huge subject. I mean, we keep talking about AI and artificial intelligence. It's a massively wide subject, of course. But generally speaking, these two power plays that come in together will create the change to actually happen. When we talk about transformation and change, we've always struggled, and I'm sure you're the same in your organizations. Yeah, you don't have enough time, you don't have enough money, you don't have buy-in from everybody, there's resistance, etc. I think this will disappear in this world because fundamentally the businesses are demanding it's going to happen. But there are two roads. There are two roads. Now, I've talked about the invisible project manager and the full automation of projects. I believe that is absolutely true and possible in a certain type of project. And I think this is critical here. In the world of technology, right, my background, in the world deployment of technology, the world where they are highly repeatable projects. They are temporary, they are different, they are unique in their outputs to a degree, but there's a whole chunk of it which is highly repeatable. And if you look at those, then you can take all of the great work that my PMO and other PMOs around the world have done in creating the most amazing methodological framework with guidance and advice and education and all of that. Um, my company, we had a fantastically flexible methodology that you could configure according to the type of project you were running. It had in-flight, at point in time, micro video education training for anybody using the methodology, guides, templates, all the rest of it. If that world, I believe, can be fully automated, and it will be the world of the invisible project manager. They will be fully automated, subject to all stakeholders agreeing that that's the approach they want to take, and that's a big question, of course. And it will be fully automated, but there will be the human in the loop. There will be the very experienced person, the orchestrator, who will be monitoring all of these projects ongoing and interacting with all of the stakeholders, all of the team members, progressing towards an expected plan. And when there is deviation, when there is exception, when there is a problem, when there is an escalation, the human will step in by exception, occasionally, only when needed, will step back out again as soon as they can. That's one path. The other path, it's projects that are large, complex, complicated, difficult, challenging, leading edge, bleeding edge, all of that will still require perhaps the traditional project or program manager, but heavily supported by artificial intelligence, being there as a key contributor, collaborator, if you like, in the project work on a day-to-day basis. There will be every opportunity to use technology to make life better, not necessarily simpler, but better. And that will make the role more successful, I believe. I think success will be driven through both these paths, whether it be the invisible project manager path or the evolution of the traditional project manager path. AI would definitely be there supported. So my personal view is that project managers won't disappear, but the visible project manager mostly will. I think in both those worlds, I think the project manager will become less visible. The project manager will become more behind the scenes, I believe. And my other view is that it's up to the will of the people now. I have hope. And so as I conclude the book, I say to all my fellow professionals, and that's you guys out here, I think may the future be bright and exciting for you all, but no matter what that future looks like when it finally arrives. But I think it's important that you have an open mind, you have that desire, that excitement, that hunger to grab what's going on now and become involved, to learn, to experiment, and really take advantage of and not be left behind. I think not be left behind. That's the key point. I like playing around with the various, whether it be Claude, ChatGPT, or etc. This one is actually a ChatGPT. I wondered, I was experimenting in what it could do when it came to humor. For those of you who know me, through history, I like to present in a style that has a lot of fun in it. I think it's a very great way of learning and engaging. So I asked ChatGPT I gave it chunks of the book I'd written, and I said, right, I want you to create a joke that I can include in the book that is about artificial intelligence. And it came up with ALFIE. ALFIE stands for Artificial Leadership Facilitator for Intelligent Execution. And I'm going to read the joke. And I think that leaves us, we're thinking, is this AI, is it at its best, or is it going to get even better? I was quite impressed actually when it came with. Anyway, this is the joke. A project manager walks into a boardroom with a shiny new AI assistant called ALFIE, Artificial Leadership Facilitator for Intelligent Execution. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attendance and attention, the project overlord says. ALFIE can handle every aspect of project delivery, absolutely everything from planning, risk, budget, stakeholders, you name it, and ALFIE can do it. The chief financial officer said, sure, but can it manage our projects? Can it manage our projects? To demonstrate this immediately, ALFIE is fed all necessary data for a real nightmare of a project. We are talking global rollout, 18 stakeholders, shift in scope, disappearing developers, 3 clashing executives, and a vendor who communicates exclusively via emojis and memes. ALFIE processes for 0.3 seconds, then generates a complete set of project plan, risk log, communication strategy, contingency roadmap, all color-coded and emoji optimized. The boardroom audience is stunned. Then the chief information officer says, what happens when marketing want to rebrand again 1 week before we launch? The board all smile, a knowing manner. ALFIE pauses, lights dim, cooling fans spin louder, and within a short time, it prints out one sticky note. The CEO picks it up from the output printer and reads it aloud. Dear stakeholders, no. Sincerely, ALFIE. The board members cheer as one. Finally, they say, someone on his team understands boundaries. There you go. That's a ChatGPT joke. And that brings me to the end of my Lunch and Learn presentation. I appreciated the time, and I'm happy to take questions if there are questions.
Yes, thank you very much, Peter. It was a really interesting presentation. Fortunately, I also heard many of good new idea and new aspect of the AI. How can we use it, and maybe I use it in my project management? So it's perfect. So I see a couple of questions in the chat. The first one: are you mean the invisible project manager is AI?
Well, I think you basically AI will take over and will be allocated individual projects to become the oversight and to run. So that will happen. But as I said, there's got to be someone above that, and they won't be 100% active on any individual project, but they might be overseeing 10 projects or 20 projects. But the AI will be running the basic. Remember the 2 paths, in this entire conversation, I always talk about the 2 paths, the 2 different types of projects. But yes, in the kind of invisible project management world, yes, they will run the projects.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. The next one, it's a small story, and the question is from András. While I have also started my journey to make myself invisible by relying on AI, I can see reports about the significant environment impact caused by the rapid growth of AI usage. Huge amount of electricity is needed, a lot of water is needed for cooling, etc. Based on your experience, do you see any signs that the environmental impact may significantly slow down the process of companies massively transitioning to AI?
Well, I think it's a problem. I think we're seeing a number of instances where a realization of the cost. I I saw one recently when they were, I can't remember who it was who said that, if we all stop saying please and thank you to ChatGPT and the like, then that would save huge amounts of power. It's unbelievable levels. I don't know. I mean, the power is the demand to run all of this, and the consumption and the impact is something we really haven't necessarily thought through. I think it will be a big thing. Will it become a limiter? I don't know. I think, sure, I'm sure I would say in the medium term, no. I think there is such an appetite for this that we will just keep going. And some of the plans from organizations like Meta, like Amazon, etc., are so massive and long term anyway. I don't think you can stop it.
Yeah, of course. That's I think it's answering the question. And of course, just one more aspect from my experience, if you allow me for that, I see that due to the AI, many of tech company driving the market as well with
Mhm.
um, reserving the memories or buying the memories from the chip market to be protect their growth and their business, and it's impacting to the other areas as well. So AI is also make an impact for the supply chain, the carbon footprint as well in this direction as well.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, just sorry for this personally.
No, no, it's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, next question. Any part of the project management will able not handled by AI? I like negative axis, social impact of project while surrounding area.
Yeah, I do think there are some parts, and that's why I go back down to these two parts, these two types of projects. I think, if you think about deployment of a SaaS tech piece of technology, then the social impact, the wider concerns of the project are minimal really, because they're being put inside an organization that has this has its own culture and its own discipline around this. I think there are. If you think, I mean, I always say that construction is a very different industry. I've never worked in construction, but obviously there, the impact on the community and the kind of social understanding of what the project's doing can be quite significant. So yes, I do think there are some parts absolutely where AI cannot play. But that does not mean it cannot be a collaborator. If you think about, if we think about, yeah, impact of a major piece of construction somewhere in the world, or it be impacting the culture, impacting the people, impacting the geography, impacting the weather, all of that, it doesn't mean that actually AI is not going to provide a lot of the analysis and guidance of how this sort of impact can be hopefully neutralized. So it's still going to be out there. It's still going to be a major part of it. Yep.
Okay, the next one. Okay, sorry, the new comes. Um, Pose them. How do you see becoming invisible in respect of various industries? For example,
Yeah.
construction
Construction.
yeah, versus tech industry. It's exactly linked the your previous answer.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. I mean, I do think it will change depending on the industry that you're involved in. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Next one. How should we, as a project managers, position ourselves to prevent ourselves from completely being replaced by AI? How should we remaining in the game?
Well, I think two things. Like one is getting involved, getting learning. It's a huge, rapid learning curve that you need to go through. But get involved. I would say if you've got anything going on in your own organization, volunteer to get involved in this. Um, there's that, and I think the other thing is kind of what I touched on. Begin to think and explore what the future roles might be and how they would need to be changed, or how you might need to be changed or change yourself to become part of the new type of role. And so I think it's understanding, it's getting, it's learning as much as possible, volunteering as much as possible, and thinking about how you can future-proof yourself by thinking like the future. What are these roles going to require? So I think that's my best advice.
Okay. One practical question. Is there any ready-made off-the-shelf AI agent for PMO to be tested or used or any sandbox access to be requested in
Mhm.
the next 6 months?
There's just a lot of niche players are playing around out there. Again, I can't really, I can't give one or anything like that. The big boys are working behind the scenes in what they're doing. The niche players are more out there. I think it's a matter of going and seeing what you can find yourself. One word of advice here, because we had this experience in my last company. If you start to use this technology, be very careful about what you're signing up for and particularly the data. So we had a couple of instances where we had project managers very excited about AI, started using some of the freely available tools that were beginning to do transcription and summarization and actions and minutes. And the reality was we suddenly quickly discovered that by signing up, it was then inviting and drawing in more and more people. And suddenly, sensitive data was being openly shared effectively. You're signing away your data off in many cases. So just be cautious. Most companies now have a lot of guidance around what's going on with this and what you can and can't do.
Mhm. The next question, what does this transformation imply to those just about to start their career in project management? What is the playground for the junior PMs in the future, and how to acquire enough experience to run those complex projects that will need a human PM even in the future?
I mean, yeah, this is a really, really good question. And I don't know the answer. I honestly don't know the answer to it at this point. Because yes, like a lot of industries, and it's not just project management, we're seeing the entry level jobs disappearing because they can just be automated and therefore don't need anybody to have that entry level. It's a concern, it's a worry. I don't know. I'm beginning to, do some research and discussions around it. What could we possibly do? But it is a worry that the next generation will be potentially bypassed as automation takes over. But that's true, as I said, beyond just project management. That's a general concern. So, fantastic question, very fair question that should be asked, absolutely. And I hope to have more to say about that in the future. But right now, I don't.
Okay, thank you, this question. The next one, what is the biggest challenge you see for project managers using for example, AI decision, team adaptation, data quality, or balancing automation with human judgment?
Okay, yep, nice. I think most people, if they understand what AI is doing, I said avoiding the black box. I think AI, it's a question, is AI going to actually make decisions or is it going to suggest decisions to be made? That's the first thing. But I think even when decisions are made, I think most people can accept it. I think the team would adopt it. I think data quality is a big, big issue in most organizations. So that's a real concern. That AI will begin to make suggestions or even decisions based on data. And I don't know, as humans, we often have this gut feel of that number doesn't look right, or how did he come up with that? And we question it. So I think this is part of the adoption process that we're going to all have to go through. And is about balancing that automation with human judgment as concluded. So I would say out of that data quality is the big one.
Okay. The next one is a comment, it's a kind of opinion of one of
Mm.
our audience about the agile. In agile, soft skills are highly appreciated. Servant leadership. In my opinion, AI will never be a solver of problems created by human interactions. Those may be the focus will change, but project manager as Scrum Master will be necessary even in AI managed environments and projects.
Mm. It's a very interesting one, isn't it? When we talk to people about when we talk to people about, and I've done it in the past, yeah, what's the biggest problem in projects? And then people to come back, it's the people. Now, so if you take the people out of the equation in my world of the invisible project manager, the automated, predefined workflow, and all parties are happy to do that. And therefore, all subjectivity is removed. It's objectivity only. It's literally that. We want this to happen. We will provide the time, resources, and the input to make that happen. Um, then you're going to have a huge reduction in problems that need to be solved. Because the people are not primary to what's going on. Yes, the business case still needs to be done. The outputs, the outcomes, and still need to be measured and proven, and that clarity of how we're going to go about doing project delivery. But on other projects, as I said, the other type, yes, there will be lots of human interactions and therefore lots of problems. So there still will be variations of those project managers and scrum masters in the future for sure.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. The last question, kind of in the chat. If the project manager role became invisible because AI handled planning, tracking, and reporting with human capabilities, where become the real differentiator for leading successful project?
Mhm. I think the greatest thing is going to be those that can envisage what change is required in an organization and get the organization to commit to that change with the right amount of resources, and then using the AI technology and where necessary, the humans to make that happen. I think that's going to become the greatest skill, because at the moment you've got lots of disparate um, groups, departments, teams, organizations. You've got a bunch of people, and they have a lot of there's a lot of conflict when you look at the portfolio inside organizations about what people are trying to achieve. If you remove that, I think that's going to be a massive step forward.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Peter. I don't see any more question in the chat. So in that case, I would thank you again, Peter, for your very well presentation and preparation, and thank you for your accept our invitation for this lunch and learn. Thank you everyone to participate here. I will send the PTU claim code at latest tomorrow. I wish everyone have a nice day. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Bye bye.
Bye bye.